Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everyone. Thank you for joining us today. My name is Bethlehem Almo, and I am your host for the panel today. And I'm joined by Simon Befekadu and Brooke to discuss some of the H1B visa complexities and updates that we have heard from the current administration. So I'll start with the introductions first. Simon Befekadu is a lawyer and counselor at law. He received his Juris degree from Emory School of Law. He currently practices in New York and has a private company where he works with immigration law, and that company is called Finot. Thank you so much for joining me today, Simon. And then we also have Brooke, who is an HR expert, which I would also really like to thank you for joining me. I think this is going to bring in some excellent conversation. So welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you for having us.
Yes, and I should say Brooke's camera is not working today, so she will just be joining us by audio only. But it's still great to have you here. So let's start the conversation with the recent H1B updates. If you can walk us through some of these complexities, Simon, as a lawyer, I'm sure it's been difficult for you to navigate as well. So you can only imagine what our audience is feeling. So if you can walk us through some of the changes and possibly go back to historically how it was to be done as well.
Okay. Thank you, for organizing this event. Always a pleasure. Very happy to be a part of this, and incredibly grateful that this platform exists to inform our community, and I'm very excited to help in this capacity. So thank you once again for organizing this event. So the H-1B visa, it's an employment-based visa that was established by Congress in the 1990s. And the hope of the program when it was originally launched, and as it exists until today, is to help U.S. companies bring in foreign talent in areas where that expertise may not necessarily be available for those companies inside the US. It was a very popular program that was designed, especially in the height of the tech boom in the 1990s. And at some point, there was at least 165,000 visas available for H-1B program. Now, the H-1B program by its nature, it's an employment-based program, meaning that you would need an employer that's based in the US to make that petition for you to be eligible for this visa. There are many kind of visas that employment or otherwise that are available, but H-1B requires that there has to be an employer, and then you, as an employee, need to be sponsored by this organization. And then there are certain requirements that you need to clear before you are eligible for the H-1B program. Recently, a lot of us have heard everything that happened with the H-1B, especially the $100,000 per application fee. Just to kind of note, it's part of the wide range of immigration reform that is currently being undertaken by President Trump. It's part of his biggest agenda and arguably one of the biggest reasons why he won the last election. And therefore, virtually every aspect of immigration has been impacted, and H-1B is not an exception. So recently, the Department of Labor, which determines the kind of expertise people have, and audits and approve the H-1B visas, not the visa, but the labor requirement, so that these individuals can get the H-1B visa, is going through a lot of progress. A lot of changes. We're going to talk what those are. USIS also is changing some of its policy especially and more interestingly, in terms of the introduction of $100,000 per applicant fee that was just announced a couple of weeks back by the president under his executive order, and therefore that's historically what the H1B was designed to do, was to bring in talent from overseas so that companies in the US could benefit from them. Now, just even for me, and I'm sure a lot of people here in the audience or anyone who's watching this later will understand, H1B is often associated with the tech industry, but significantly more industries other than tech could also benefit. Of course, H1B is, in public discourse, especially in light of the recent news, is usually brought to public attention in terms of it's the cornerstone of the tech industry, because a lot of the founders of some of the biggest companies that we can think of came through, or their parents came through some sort of H1B visa, which helped them settle in the US and then bring in jobs and what have you. So, but other than the tech industry, which is obviously the biggest beneficiary, and then we can see this in terms of, for example, Amazon, which had 10,000 petitions. That means 10,000 people that was approved just in 3/4 of 2025, meaning the first 9 months of 2025, Amazon, a single company, had 10,000 H1B programs that were approved. So you can see that it's slightly strongly tied to the tech industry. However, academia is the biggest beneficiary as well. And most importantly, rural universities and hospitals benefit from them as well. So it is a program that helps, again, companies fill out jobs that they otherwise could not. And it's been a very important part of the American workforce in over 35 years of its existence. Obviously, it went through a lot of changes as time goes by, but none so as big as the past 5-6 months. And so, yeah, that's just slightly some of the changes that we're going to talk about them, I'm assuming, at some point. But yeah, that's what it looks like, the H1B visa.
I see. Thank you for this explanation. Now, what I find very interesting is that H1B is not actually widely used within our community. According to the State Department reports that was generated in 2025, only 13 visas were issued for H1B from Ethiopia. So would you say that has to do with the lack of information? Because, I mean, we do have enough professionals available in any industry, right, including tech. So why do you say we don't take as much advantage of this visa?
But is the question for me or for Brooke?
I guess you can go either way. Brooke, if you can.
I can take that.
Yes, go ahead.
So that 13 number is interesting because I've seen it, but then we don't know. It could be up to the hundreds. We don't know, but most in our community use other visas, right? And those in our community, I do know, do use OPT. And I am aware of some Ethiopians who do have this, that are using this visa, generally in healthcare, right? So it's not something that is extremely popular within our community, although our community is also in tech. Our community is well represented in all of these different fields that use it.
Just to add to that a little bit, arguably, because the H1B visa is, there's only 65,000 visas available in a year. And there is an additional 20,000 visas for people who have a master's degree and up in the US that qualify for this program. And one of the biggest challenge of H1B visa, which actually prompt the entire agency that handles this, including USIS and the DOL and DHS, is that there is what they call an oversubscription of this visa. It's arguably a very, very important visa. A lot of people qualify for it. And taking into account everything, unless you're a researcher or a doctor who's not, part of what they call the exempt part of this visa, there's only 85,000 visas that could go around for everyone. And this is countries throughout the world. And obviously, the biggest beneficiaries that we know of, even though I don't have any hard data in front of me, that it's people from the Indian subcontinent and the China subcontinent. So those do make up a huge portion of the beneficiaries of H1B. However, like Brooke said, there's definitely people in our community that we know of that benefit from this program. And it might have to do with people, also coming to the US and having alternative means to pursue a more permanent immigration, or just simply because, in my opinion, and this is just a hunch from everything that I know, is that I think it's just too few of visa available for the vast number of people that require them. So that's my take on it.
And I think that's a very valid point to make, because, as you said, some countries are overly represented when it comes to this visa. And just looking at the same report, from India, they had about 17,386 visas that were issued. And again, that's comparing against Ethiopia, which is around 13. So there's a significant difference as well. But now let's go back and focus on these changes that have been issued. So starting September 21st of this year, and going forward, the current government or administration has issued several changes to the H1B visa. Can you elaborate on that?
Sure. So there's broadly three major changes that I would like to discuss today that obviously impact this program. The first one is the introduction of the $100,000 fee per applicant. So there's so many questions surrounding this issue. When does it start? Who does it affect? Does it apply for even the exempt status? Is it one-time fee? Is it a yearly fee? Does it happen every year? There is so many questions that are not answered. And in fact, the executive order that was signed left many questions than it did answer. So that's going to be this one of the most significant change that we're going to talk about. And obviously, the second one is there is a Department of Labor, and I'm going to talk about how the Department of Labor is involved in this approval process for what we call a wage determination or a prevailing wage determination. They have what they call a project firewall, which is designed to be more robust in terms of the investigation, in terms of the approval process for employers who are filing petitions for applicants in the H1B system. And the last one is, and this is also extremely important for people, is the introduction of the weighted system for lottery. So I'm going to start with the lottery system. Because of the oversubscription that we talked about earlier, meaning that more people wanting to take part into this visa in hopes of working for one of the great U.S. companies, whether it's small businesses, whether it's tech companies or what have you, USIS had to introduce a lottery system, meaning that you would enter into an actual lottery, and then if your name is pulled out and then you win, and then you would be eligible, provided that you meet all the qualification for the visa. Now, that is going to be a thing of the past if we're to believe the current changes from USIS, which is the U.S. Immigration the agency that has to approve the visas, right? Any type of visa that you want to get or you want to adjudicate, you would have to go through a USI. So that's the agency that's responsible for it. So I do apologize if I'm using labels and not really defining them what they are, but I hope that folks do know what a USI is. It's the agency that's responsible for approving people's visa and immigration status, and in an easier way to define what USI is. So basically, now that system is going to be gone. The lottery system is going to be gone, and as we said, there is just to give people a perspective of how small H1B is in the current platform. Even if that we talked about how certain countries tend to fill this visa program. Recent reports suggest there are about 163 million Americans that are working. That's 163 million. Don't ask me about the other 200 million. I don't know what they're doing. But out of the 163 million people that are working, only 780,000 of them are on the H1B visa. Now, that's a very small fraction of the workforce that benefit from this visa. So we're already talking about a very minuscule part of the workforce, as stated. So to qualify for this visa, or to qualify for this lottery system, now there's going to be a weighted preference. So certain individuals will have more entry into the lottery system, meaning their name is going to be drawn more times, effectively giving them more chance into getting this visa. And some individuals are going to be punished for it because they could only have one entry. So how does that work? Is the H1B, just to give people a context of how this works, is there are 4 levels. So the first level it's easy enough. It's level 1, and the fourth level is level 4. So is level 2 and level 3. Each level, to qualify for each level, you need to have you need to get at least a certain amount of wage. That is depending on your geography or other factors that are stated by the Department of Labor, which is responsible for determining whether or not that individual can be qualify for the program, right? So the level 1 is entry level. It's for people who just have minimal experience, probably just meet the very basic minimum requirements, such as like you just have a degree in accounting, or you have a degree in IT and you're just working as a IT consultant for some company, first year. That is a level 1. And their wage is obviously much lower than a much more experienced software engineer or a doctor or researcher. The second level, or level 2, is for more qualified people. And then obviously you need to meet even more stringent standard. The third one is level 3. That's for experienced folks. So as you climb more on the ladder, the amount of money you need to get from your employer would increase as well. And the last one, level 4, is for fully competent individual. So according to the new system that's going to be implemented in March of 2026, provided that they're going to it's going to be approved, level 4 folks would have twice the entry for this lottery, meaning that if we were to take individual A, who is an applicant in 2025, he would be entered only once in the system, meaning that he would have just a random chance, just like anyone. So an individual in level 1 would have the same opportunity into the lottery system as someone who has a level 4. Now what they're doing is level 4 would have 4 entries. Level 3 would have 3 entries, level 2 would have 2 entries, and level 1 would only have 1 entry. So someone with a level 1 or an entry level on H1B, their chance of getting the lottery is gone by at least 48%. whereas like someone who is a level 4 is going to have double that chance. So when we talk about level 1, level 2, level 3, obviously some of the occupations require a higher salary. If you have a top surgeon, one of the best and brightest surgeon who's coming from Ethiopia, and he's part of the H1B beneficiary, he's not going to probably settle for $100,000 salary, right? He's probably going to have $600,000. Now, $600,000 is in the higher end of, or the fully competent part, and therefore he would have 4 entries versus someone who is who just have the first degree, which is anyways a requirement, and then he's here to do some work for some company in terms of an IT, and the salary he's going to get is 100,000 because that's what the market pays. Now you only have 1 entry, wherein the doctor who's commanding a 600,000 salary is going to have 4 entries. So that is how a majority of people who would be in level 1, level 2 are going to be effectively shut down, or they're going to be left out of the system, meaning that only extremely experienced and extremely talented people are going to qualify for this visa. That's just the first one. Now, that is what we call the weighted system. So you have more weight as your level goes up, and vice versa. The weight becomes less as your level goes down. The second one is project firewall. Now, when you have an H1B, there is a series of steps companies need to go through they need to have an announcement. They need to show sometimes that, they cannot find a qualified US worker, what have you. There is a bunch of requirements. Now, the agency that's tasked to make sure that everything is falling in line, and then this could be approved so it could be sent to the US Immigration Service or USCIS, is the Department of Labor, or DOL. Now, they do a lot of auditing. They make sure that people are not getting underpaid, because one of the biggest criticism of the H1B program is that these companies are bringing in foreign labor so they could pay them less for a position that otherwise would have paid more, because they simply cannot do that for the US workforce, meaning that they know that these people oftentimes don't have an option, so they would settle for whatever money is available, and they would pay them less, and therefore this and that. Also, there was some issues with fraudulent entries, of many entries for some people, meaning one person could be entered so many times to kind of game the system. So Department of Labor now announced that what they call a project firewall that is designed to crack down on some of this misuse and fraud, as they call them. So that's a second bigger change that's happening. The third one is the $100,000 fee. Now, that seems to be the talk of the town. So we're just gonna go right to it. $100,000. There's again so many uncertainties, so many questions that I don't know. Frankly, not a lot of people would know, just because we still don't have guidance on how this is going to be implemented. For example, we know $100,000 is going to be paid for every entry. The one thing that was later clarified to us was that it's only going to apply to companies that are bringing new workers from outside of the US. Now, that's going to be a unique set of people. That's going to start in 2026, and it's going to apply for only people that are going to be part of the next visa system, the next visa cycle, which is going to be March 2026. And then it's going to only apply to people that are coming from coming into the US, versus those that are going to graduate with an F1 visa and then have OPT and then slowly transition to the H1B process. That is not, it's not going to affect those people. That is at least the understanding that we have at the moment. There is a question of how, obviously, how much we know. It's 100,000. It's per applicant, and there was a confusion as to whether it applies yearly whether it's a one-time payment or whether it's like uh, something that I forgot to mention. The H1B visa is available initially for 3 years, which can then be extended to 6 years and sometimes can be extended even more. But then a lot of companies choose to sponsor their workers into a permanent resident through other available visa systems, such as the EB2 and the EB1 and other visa systems that are available. So uh, is it for every year, assuming 6 years is usually the default? So is it for the 6 years? Does it apply to the the exempt group of people that are not part of this lottery system, such as doctors and researchers? There is some questions that we don't know of, and there is going to be more guidance that's going to be issued, hopefully in the future, that could answer some of this issue. But that what we know definitely as it stands on October 9 and 7:26 p.m. is that it does not apply to current winners or anyone in the past who benefits from the H1B program. And it only is going to apply for people for the next upcoming cycle, which is going to start in March of 2026. And it's going to be impacting those people that are seeking to get a visa to enter the US into the H1B program. So if you are an F1 student who is in the US and who's going, hoping to get a OPT, say you graduate in May of this year, and then you're going to get an OPT program out of it, and then you hope to apply for H1B, who knows what's going to happen in the next 2-3 years. But as of right now, that should not impact you in any shape or form. So that is the kind of understanding that we have about the H1B program. The other question, is the other issue is there is no mechanism that's established by USIS to collect this fee. How's the fee going to be collected? Nobody knows. Just because the guidance have not been published by USIS, and therefore we don't know how that's going to proceed. So if someone is like, okay, I'm going to apply next year, and then see what happens, we really don't know how that's going to take place. So these are some of the biggest changes that are happening. Now, there's a little bit of a change that we don't know how it's going to play out. There is currently a bill in Congress that is designed to get rid of the exempt status. Maybe I have mentioned this earlier or not, but just apologize if this isn't repetition, but I'm going to sort of talk about the H1B program overall. Like I said, there are 85,000 visas available, but there are professions and there are institutions that are exempt from this visa requirement, meaning that they can get more people under the H1B visa without directly having to participate in the lottery system. What do I mean by that? If you're a tech company, if you're Amazon and you're looking for a web developer, then you definitely need to bring in someone with H1B in the lottery system. You need to apply for them, make sure they got into the lottery, hope that they win the lottery, and then you can get them H1B. However, if you're an academic institution who is engaged in biomedical research or something like that, if you're a researcher, you do not need to go through that path. As long as you can demonstrate that that person has the requisite requirement, there is no requirement for this researcher to be a part of the lottery system, and therefore meaning that they're not going to be impacted by the small available lottery that's available for everyone, which kind of gives this rural institutions and rural hospitals a fighting chance to hire more qualified people. They don't have to worry about the visa system, the lottery system. Now there is a bill, like I said, that's introduced in Congress by, I believe it's an Arkansas Senator, Tom Cotton. He and he's the sponsor of the bill are calling to overhaul the entire H1B program to include these people into the lottery system, meaning that if you're a doctor or a researcher, the days of you not participating in the lottery system to enter into the US workforce are gone, and then you're going to have to take part in the lottery system just like everyone. And now I don't know, or nobody actually knows how that's going to play out. It's unclear if they're going to get a bipartisan support. It's very early to talk about that, but because the H1B overhaul is getting a momentum, and the entire country seems to be on board with this idea, at least those people in power, they may be able to get this done and further restrict the number of people that will qualify for this program as well. So those are, I guess I lied because I said 3 changes and I talk about 4, but those are generally the biggest changes that are happening regarding H1B. Now I will take a water break.
Thank you very much, Simon. That was a very thorough review of all the changes that are happening. And if I can just summarize what you said, because that was a lot of information. I feel like there were 4 main changes that you were discussing. The first one being the $100,000 fee. It may not be as we understood it at first. This only applies for new workers that are outside of the U.S. And the second main point he made was that this is applicable to new petitions and not affecting renewals or existing visa holders. So this will be enforced starting March of 2026. The third point you made was discussing about the weighted system, which is actually very new. That's not something I understood from reading the release. But as you said, there are 4 main levels that people need to be aware of. With increased experience and pay, you move from levels 1 all the way to the 4th. So the higher you're on the level, so comparing level 1 to 4, the more chances that you will have to winning this lottery. The last point you made, and I think this is a very important point because this affects other types of visas as well. So in the past, there were exempt professionals such as doctors and nurses that were able to migrate to the U.S. And work. But now there is a bill that's currently introduced in Congress, and that is going to mean that these exempt employees are going to be put into this lottery system as well, same as the H1B. I hope I captured it all, but I feel like these were the main takeaway points. So now, just to give you some break, Simon, I'm going to switch over to Brooke. Brooke, in your 15 year of experience working in HR, I'm sure you can guide us, especially new professionals that are coming into this work field, whether they have years of experience or that have just graduated from college, right? I feel like this is a very difficult environment to navigate in this times, especially if you don't have a working visa in the country, right? So in your advice, what would be some advices that you would give to these professionals, again, looking to join the workforce?
Sure. So the first thing I would ask professionals and students to think about is to think about it from the employer perspective, right? Like, what is going to make you attractive? To have a truly realistic expectation. And some of these changes, for example, if you are in the US and you're a student, you're going to be more competitive if you do your OPT, right? And if you're currently doing your OPT and your organization is one that has used the H1B visa system and is interested in using it, they may prioritize you more because you are in the US and the $100,000 fee will not be applicable to you, right? The other thing is there are, as Simon mentioned, hospitals, research institutions that had kept. They didn't have to go onto the lottery system. So if you are thinking about working for an organization, find out, did they have an exemption or did they not? It's fairly easy to find out that information. The third thing is be prepared. Be very prepared to truly, because in the past, for example, if you had an OPT and you're an accountant or you're in finance, for example, my roommate is a finance person with an H1B visa, right? It was fairly easy to go through that process, but things are being scrutinized. Therefore, the job descriptions are a bit more stricter. And so if If this is a journey that you're interested in making, then truly take the time to research and think about it. And I do believe Simon is going to talk about other opportunities, other visas that you can use. Um, and so think about that as well. So back to you, Beatty.
That was very helpful, Brooke. So if I can also summarize what you were saying, it's best to explore other options, right? Because as we've heard previously, even the $100,000 is applicable to those that are moving to the U.S. So if you're already a student, let's say on an F1 visa, or if you have your OPT, you have higher chances of establishing a long-term option than somebody who currently doesn't. So that was very helpful, I would say. But yes, you do get us into this great transition in which I want to ask Simon, what are the other options that people could explore? What other visa options? And think more in terms of professionals that already have years of experience or those that may be international students, right? So what would be your advice here?
Um, so before we go ahead and talk about other options, I do want to talk about what, especially because the majority of people that I know that could benefit from H1B are students in F1 visa. And if they don't have any other options, um, H1B still remains an option uh, because chances are, and this is just to build on what Brooke said, like employees are going to change, employers are going to change how they're going to continue sponsoring people, because to pay $100,000 for someone, that person better be good, right? And that's a hefty price, and that's something they're going to have to, include in their profit shit and all that. I don't understand accounting, nor do I pretend to, but that's going to, I'm assuming, is going to be a huge burden for companies. So this may give them um, people who are in the US another chance to participate from the H1B program. Meaning, if you're on a F1 visa, and then because you're not going to be subjected to the new $100,000 fee, you could technically benefit from H1B. I mean, that's just looking at from the other side, because the employers are now going to be less inclined to sponsor people from outside, but more inclined to, I mean, I'm assuming it's going to even decrease from what it used to be. But if you're a student in the US, I would say max out your OPT program, which could be extended up to 36 months for people in the STEM. Um, you know, after 36 months, they could apply for H1B. And because they're not going to be subjected to the $100,000 fee, then they may have a fighting chance in H1B. So that's something. The other thing is, this is definitely not intended to be legal advice. I think we should have started that from the get-go. If you're any one of your listeners, please do not take any advice from a public podcast. This is basically a podcast. So, but it depending on your circumstance, depending on who you are, depending on your qualifications, there are obviously other available visa opportunities for you, such as the employment-based visa. If there is a EB1 or what we call an Einstein visa, if you're a doctor, if you have an advanced degree, that you could definitely have some sort of chance to see if you could qualify for this visa. If you're a researcher, if you're a professor, if you have some sort of research published, then there are definitely areas that you could. There are definitely visas you could take advantage of, and a lot of these visas are not like H1B, which are contingent upon extension and extension. These are actually visas that are designed to get you a green card upon approval. Meaning, once you get the visa, you're just gonna have to wait some time. Obviously, there is a waiting time for everything, but the eventual outcome is going to be a green card versus H1B, which is not guaranteed to get you a green card or a permanent resident. So there are visas available. The other kind of visa, again, is same kind of visa, is called the EB2 visa, depending on, again, your experience, your publications, and your education level, or years of experience. If you have a bachelor degree and 5 years of experience, or if you have a master's degree and higher, then you could qualify for an EB2 visa. That is the letter E, the letter B, and 2. So this visa is designed again to give highly qualified people. So if you got your degree, from George Washington University and a master's of accounting, and you come up with a unique formula that like you participate, like you publish 5 articles, 10 articles that, or something like that, you definitely can see if you can apply for an EB2 visa. There is again 2 types. There is one that could be sponsored by your company. There is one that if your work is so good that you could apply under what's called the national interest waiver exemption, meaning that if you can demonstrate that your work is so profound and so useful to the national interest of the United States, that you could actually be waived from the Department of Labor requirement, and therefore could actually qualify for this visa. There's multiple visas available. Definitely reach out to an attorney who is experienced in that profession and that specific field. And there are resources, but definitely don't put all of your eggs in one basket, and just make sure that you have multiple avenues for success. That's what I could say. But I'm happy to elaborate on any of them. But that's what I have, Rachel.
Oh, thank you. That was great. Again, going back to this report that was released in 2025, the 3 main visa types that were issued to Ethiopians were the B1, B2, which is a visitor visa, right? The F1, as well as other ones are very close to each other, so we won't mention. But going back to the F1, which applies to a lot of international students here, I'm going to go back to Brooke to see if she has any suggestions to international students as well. Previously, you have mentioned some great ideas for professionals, but those that are still in college, what would be your advice to them?
So if you're in college, of course, you can also take advantage of different avenues. For example, you're going to start thinking about if you want, because OPT is generally after, right? So you can start thinking about, okay, I want to do an OPT, or if so, where would I do that OPT? Because even to get that opportunity, an employer needs to say, yes, we're interested in having you do this, right? So start networking, connect with others who are also taking a similar journey, right? Talk to your professors, because quite often I come across folks that are like, oh, I don't need to think about this now. I need to make sure that all my energy is spent on getting great grades, which is true, or doing research. That is also correct. And I'll think about that later. But due to the landscape and how things are shifting, I do recommend networking. And if you don't, YEP is a really good organization to start networking in, right? And so that's the first thing that I think it's quite nuanced for most folks, because networking, you're thinking, okay, I don't know how to network, because that's what I get. And I'm like, okay, there's some courses that you could take. Or if you're shy about it, Toastmasters. Think outside of the box, because Toastmasters is for like how to be a public speaker, but you'll end up meeting other folks there. You could talk a little bit about your journey. The other thing is, and this is just, keep your nose clean while in school, because there's a lot of scrutiny that's happening now. So even small things like if you're driving, be careful about tickets. Be careful about reckless driving, because there is more scrutiny at this point. And you know, we'll see what kind of changes happen. We'll see. I'm hopeful that things will swing back a little bit more in the other direction. So we're in a wait and see situation. And for OPTs, for example, organizations that I worked at, quite a few folks got it because the school had a pathway. So if you're going to GW, if you're going to American, ask, you know, do you have connections with organizations to actually offer this? For others, they were alumni that helped people get that. And so don't be afraid to ask questions. You're not being pushy. People want to help one another, specifically when you're a student. If you've graduated and you're thinking about it post graduation, it might be a little bit difficult. But as Simon said, and as most HR leaders right now are thinking about it, that $100,000 is quite a hefty fee to pay, and it's actually incentivizes international students that want to work in the United States to get their education in the United States, right? So remember that. Back to you. That's all I have.
No, those were great suggestions, and I really do like the creativity aspect you're bringing into this, because I think we're so used to thinking very logically, very linear. Oh, if I can only get good grades, maybe I can get some scholarships. Why wait? Right? Why wait until you finish your degree so that you don't have so rushed with time? So I definitely do support your comments, and yep, is here to help you with that. So we have a career team. If you're looking for mentors, we can put you in touch with some people. Or really, it's just great to come to the networking events so that you can get to know other professionals that are in the field. So thank you for being that. And what about you, Simon, from a legal perspective? Do you have any advice for anyone who's out there, students
Um,
in the US?
yeah, I have a lot of advice, not specific to any one individual, but unfortunately, that we do live in a heightened time, and people need to look out for themselves. At the end of the day, we're an immigrant community, and there's so many laws that are passed that one way or another, even if they're not, we're not the intended beneficiary, or yeah, let's just call it beneficiary. We're not the intended beneficiary that we end up, getting into, the crosshairs, and we would definitely need to avoid that. So everything that Brooke said stands. Just take care of yourself. Make sure that you remain to be a great and upstanding citizen, and a great participant in the workforce. You need to make sure that you don't have any non um, um, impediments, I would say, to whatever journey that you hope to make out of your time in the US. A lot of it is common sense. Honestly, I always tell people, I know the expression that a lot of people, what is common sense? It should not be different for different people, but just use your common sense. Really, like stay away from trouble, regardless of who's in power. I mean, you have to demonstrate every single day that you deserve the privilege of staying in this country as it's required. So, that being said, I do have to mention that there's current lawsuits that are uh, designed to curb the many changes that I was just talking about earlier. There is at least four major big lawsuits that are happening across the country, and folks do need to watch out for that kind of changes, right? Like, information is power. Definitely get your resources from, read about them. Ask a professional. Do not get your information from TikTok, please. Um, and yeah, talk to an attorney if you have an immigration question. Definitely talk to an attorney, and definitely stay informed in current happenings, and uh, you know recent introduction of laws and lawsuits and stuff like that. And you don't have to be a lawyer because at the end of the day, your life is going to be impacted one way or another. So if you're the kind of person who is planning to apply for H1B and you don't reside in the US currently, definitely check to see how this lawsuits pan out. Usually they may have some merit, which would result in a temporary restraining order from the law to be effective, which could push it even further, meaning that the next the next lottery system might not be impacted with the $100,000 fee and other changes. So we don't know. I'm sure YEP is going to do an amazing job of organizing events like this in the future and inviting even more professionals to talk about some of the changes as relate to this one and even others. But that's what I have to say.
No, that's good. Thank you. So I'm just going to give you one last chance to share any resources that you think our audience would find helpful. I'm just going to give you one. I'm going to give the opportunity to Brooke first. Do you have any resources that you think would be very useful for our audience?
I do. There's a lot of them. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to give that slide to you, Beatty, so that it can kind of get sent out because it's quite a few. Mm-hmm. But I can speak high level. The first thing, as he said, talk to an attorney. It's really important because if you're getting your news from Reddit or TikTok, sometimes Reddit is correct, but other times not so. The second part, as far as resources, is use your university's resource center, right? And if you are a student, I forgot to mention it. If you are a student, do your CPT, because that can give you the experience to then go get an OPT. And USCIS website, I would say go on that, take a look at it. Folks have said it's intimidating, but take a look at that. And the other resource I would say is your wellness. So take care of your health, your mental health, and your well-being as well. It's really, really important in these times. And another resource is community. So that's what I have. Thanks.
Very well said. Okay, same question to you, Simon.
The question being, sorry. Resources. Yeah, resources. I think Brooke really said everything. It's really hard to know what goes on, only because we're in an onslaught of information that happens, and even for professionals who are dedicating their entire expertise in one sphere, it's even difficult for them. But I definitely do want, I like to tell people what not to do than what to do, because what to do is kind of easy. Do not get your information or your legal advice from the internet, please, including ChatGPT, because it hallucinates, right? We love the chatbot, but it unfortunately, there's a lot of hallucination, and until they have a version that is going to replace me, please stay away from it. And definitely don't get your advice from TikTok and other places. It's good to kind of get the information started, but please do not rely on any information. I used to not really worry about saying that, but after getting into a lot of issues with people who didn't take their advice from TikTok, I feel like that's the biggest disclaimer that I have to say every single time I am given the opportunity to open my mouth about this issue. So please do not take your advice from TikTok. Definitely do read about them. Like, take official information from, like Reuters, Associated Press, what have you. Definitely reach out to attorneys in your area. And I'm not saying that to be like, okay, we're the only one who knows what's going on, but we do have our license at stake, and the people who have their life at stake tend to do a better job than those people who don't have to lose anything, because they can just say whatever and then they don't have any liability. So definitely, if you have a question, reach out. There's a lot of great resources that are not only like, I'm not talking about paid attorneys, that are nonprofits. So many nonprofits in the DC area that help folks who don't have the means to pay, but that could definitely guide you into the right direction, even if they're not going to take your case. And as to the rest of the experience, I'm not going to ruin by adding more into what Brooke said. Definitely don't get your advice from anything, including this very podcast, this very live event. Okay. Yeah.
Thank you very much. I think we had a great discussion today. I think we covered a wide range of topics, not just H1B, but other types of visas and what to do really as a new professional that is coming into the work field, or those that are still in school, right? And I think Brooke brought out a great point, which is to plan ahead and to explore other options. So planning ahead means network ahead of time, prepare yourself for the job market. Even though you're still a freshman and a junior, it really does not matter. You should put yourself out there and see what other options are available to you. And in addition to that, we heard a lot from Simon to stay informed, right? And to base your knowledge based on actually credible sources and not just profiles or really Facebook or
Yeah.
anything, but to go to the right websites, including the USCIS website, or really any legal professionals that you can consult. And for this, even if you can't afford it, there are some resources that you can look into to find support. Having said that, I would really, really like to thank my guests today, Simon, who is an attorney and again counselor at law, and Brooke, who is an HR expert. I would really like to thank you for giving us your time to go over these very complicated subjects. I hope we provided some kind of clearance to the audience in these really murky times, because everything is confusing and everything seems to be changing by the minute. So I hope you come back in the future. I would like to say that I saw a comment saying an audience member that announced that he just signed up for a Toastmasters Club. So, Brooke, see, people are already listening to your advice.
That's wonderful.
Yes. So, yeah, anything you would like to add last minute?
It was wonderful being here, and here's to community, right? That's all I have to say.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
Thank you so much one more time. Again, incredibly grateful for the work YEP is doing. And I'm very grateful for each of you for taking your time and just helping the community. That's just incredible work. And I'm very, very happy to be a part of this as well. So yeah, cheers to community.
Exactly. Here's the community. And we will be sharing those resources that Brooke has mentioned. And if anything, if Simon would also like to add anything to those resources, we will also add that. Again, thank you for joining us today. And I hope you're walking away with some great advices. So, bye.
Bye.